how about a look at what other martial artists think about HEMA? I'll be starting out with a video by Josh B and BJJ titled, I tried HEMA to see if it's legit. And I just want to say a few words about that first, the legitimacy aspect of it, because that's where some people get hung up a little bit. There's sort of different opinions and disagreements and this and then the other. So HEMA usually is regarded with a bit of skepticism, maybe not usually, but often is seen with some skepticism for a few reasons. One, it's swords, they're anachronistic, which makes it seem weird, makes people who are interested in them seem extra nerdy, unlike firearms, which are contemporary and fully relevant and all of that, even though, quite frankly, gun nuts get just as nerdy. And then there's the fact that there's no living tradition, no lineage, that it needs to be rediscovered, and that a lot of it consists of poring over dusty old tomes to figure out what did they mean. And it's often done on a more relaxed recreational basis, depending on the individual martial arts school. Of course, some are way more serious about competition. At its core, it is a martial art. It is about fighting. I know that's an awfully long preamble before even getting started, but I just want to set the stage with some context.
I'm about to train with real medieval grapplers to find out if it's just an interesting hobby or if it could actually help me as a jiu-jitsu competitor.
Okay, that's an interesting angle. It might.
Waiting inside for me is Stephen Fick, who I have yet to meet in person and have only been exchanging scary text messages with thus far. I had asked him if I'd actually be able to live spar with someone tonight, and he said it's a little dangerous.
The risk of concussions is definitely higher in HEMA than in BJJ. The risk of broken fingers might be, but I'm not sure. I would think there's also a significant risk of that in BJJ, and various joint injuries must be pretty common. And they are in HEMA too, but for different reasons. If you're doing grappling, of course, it shouldn't be that different. Man, that is a really nice, large space for practice.
So we have the longsword
with a flamberge blade. Okay, I didn't expect that. It's quite an interesting combination, actually, of a wavy blade with that cross-guard pommel. I haven't seen that before.
Oh, that's heavy.
Interesting. Normally people's reaction is, that's much lighter than I thought.
This is the one that I primarily work from, a 600-year-old fighting manuscript. Here's the wrestling.
Fiori is very popular, and for good reason. I've come around on that.
That wasn't Steven, but that's another example of HEMA.
That was quite a controversial moment back then, because usually you don't see such hard throws in HEMA. The expectation is generally to be pretty gentle. So some people took offense to that and were like, oh, this was way too much and out of line and whatever. But, in other martial arts, that would not be unusual at all, of course. And as long as the floor is suited for that. I don't know, the floor there looks pretty hard, so I don't know about that. But of course, you also wear protective gear. I suppose it's just a matter of what's agreed upon in advance, just like the intensity of the hits, with the exception of hits to the head with swords and other weapons. In my opinion, they should always be light. Always. Because masks are not that good at preventing concussions, and concussions over time add up. It's cumulative brain damage, even if mild at the time, but again, it's cumulative and irreversible generally. So do not hit people hard in the head with swords when doing HEMA, and especially not with staves and pole arms and all that.
I was mostly looking forward to the unarmed grappling, which is my second class tonight, so I could see what the overlap is with jiu-jitsu.
From what I've seen, without being deeply familiar with BJJ, is there are definitely some noticeable overlaps.
The techniques that kept people safe then will help keep us safe now.
The fundamentals still apply, and again, there's definitely an overlap between medieval dagger defense and modern knife defense, the way it's taught. But I will say there are definitely techniques in the manuscripts that are overly complex, shall we say. Some of them, they're sound in principle, mechanically, but I find it difficult to imagine someone actually pulling that off in a real fight. That might be quite difficult because of their complexity, because of, you know, everything that can go wrong on the way. But you know what? I've made a dedicated video about that. I'm just going to link it down below and not babble anymore.
My number one self-defense tool is running.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
We have a rule here that you cannot name it unless it's drawing blood.
What? In what kind of way? Like you cut yourself on the sword accidentally and now you're allowed to name it? I don't know about that. Because it should not draw anyone else's blood. I don't know about you, but to me, the sword drawing your own blood is nothing to be celebrated. But hey, to each their own.
I was surprised that we actually hold the sword by the blade.
The medieval
In armor.
sword would only be a little bit sharper than a table knife.
No, I can't agree with that. Okay. I don't want to go into the whole spiel again, but I've talked before about how some of the techniques that we have in the manuscripts require a very sharp blade, and we have some surviving original swords that are still sharp enough to cut paper, which is definitely sharper than a table knife. Now, to be fair, in this setup right now, he's showing techniques that are meant to be used in armor. So a sword in armor you can expect to not be as sharp. It doesn't need to be. In fact, according to some of the prescriptions from the time, it should only be sharpened at the tip, and there should be a blunt section or an unsharpened section where you hold onto it. There are a number of different versions of that, but because a lot of it deals with unarmored fighting, the sword does need to be quite sharp, really. I hate to be that guy to be like, actually, and especially to argue with the founder and head instructor of a HEMA school, but I have a strong opinion on that and just had to point it out.
Okay, interesting. Whoa. Okay. Okay. That wasn't acting. That was that's actually very strong.
Mechanical advantage. It's even worse than with bare hands. Of course, in jiu-jitsu and other grappling arts, you work a lot with leverage and trying to gain as much leverage over the opponent, so it's not just a battle of strength, even though strength helps a lot, obviously. But yeah, you have a lot more leverage.
What made you start it? Swords are cool? Yeah. Yeah.
Enough said. Swords are cool.
Whoa!
Ready?
Wait, hold on, let me check the...
Ready?
Yep. Whoa!
Getting hit in the mask is really quite unpleasant. I mean, getting hit generally, of course, in, again, any martial art. But there's something about it. Like this, for one, there's something about like a blade coming straight in your eyes or whatever. And also, you know, it's not, even though you're protected, it's not pain-free necessarily, depending on how hard you get hit. It can be quite unpleasant, and it's loud too.
Jeez.
The thing is, in order to stop that, you would have to do something before it gets to a certain point. This is way too late. This is already too late. There you might still be able to respond, and ideally you would respond here already. All right, so that's usually the case with just about any technique. If you see it early enough, you can counter it, but when it's too far ahead, it's over.
Jeez. I can take you lots of different ways.
No, take that out of context.
His face pushes were still giving me problems, so I decided to give him a little taste of his own medicine and went for my own
There you
face
go.
push blouse pull combo. And when he actually is able to get to this like face push and then grab my lower back, if I don't prevent that, that actually feels very strong.
Sounds like that's a potential takeaway. It sounds like the face push isn't used in BJJ, or at least Josh wasn't used to it, so that might be something to incorporate.
There are so many more similarities. I always tell people that we are all on the same mountain, just taking different paths to the top.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. I mean, again, this is a point that I've made before, the fact that we're all, you know, humans with the same physiology. There's only so many ways to effectively do something. So yeah, of course, there's going to be quite a bit of overlap. Like particularly when it comes to footwork, when it comes to ways to break someone's structure, to make them stumble, lose the balance, or to take them down, or when it comes to joint locks, and those are all going to be generally the same, more or less. There's also one by Sensei Seth, of course. He always loves to explore different martial arts and compare notes and all of that, which is very interesting. So let's see what he thinks.
These right here are synthetics. So typically our beginner classes, we usually start with this right here because there's a lot of flex in this, so they're relatively safe. So
yeah, I noticed that they...
Yeah, you don't have to start with steel right away. In fact, I don't think there's any HEMA school that starts beginners out with steel. Maybe there is somewhere, but usually you start out with the nylon trainers, which are safer and less intimidating.
the point is kind of the point. There you go.
This is just a universal joke, isn't it? It's really hard to avoid making that pun. I sure have a bunch of times.
More of a...
The lost expression is great. And yeah, it very much sums up the experience of beginners at first, where they're like, how do you? Like, everybody has certain ideas about how to pick a thing up and swing it, right? It's usually just like ham-fisting and just, and yeah, it's a little more complicated than that. And there's significant differences between systems, between sword types and all of that. It's a little overwhelming at first.
When the day finally came, I got to TSG and was met with some pretty sick sword sparring.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
But at this point, I really only had one thought.
That you don't see very often in sparring, so it's always great when someone pulls it off. It's looking pretty good already. He's picking up on it quickly.
I would imagine most of this is recreational, into maybe even going as far as sport, which is a bit different than martial arts, which is kind of like, ideally what I could go do out there. I wonder if they could do that here.
I feel like the constraint for that is more laws and morality and all of that. Like, you could do that out there. Not that you should, but yeah, less common with swords. I mean, not that knife fights are common. Punches, kicks, and grappling are definitely most common. But, like I've pointed out before, you can apply sword techniques to other things. You can apply them to, baseball bats, sticks, just pick up some improvised thingamajig, anything that, lead pipe, if you have to. It does apply to various things you can find.
He told me to wear a cup. I'm not wearing a cup.
Oh boy, you don't know what can happen when you don't wear a cup. All right, there you go. Okay, I see he's already applying Fiori things. It didn't actually work, but you can see the Fiori false edge deflection that he likes to do. So you beat the opponent's sword out of the way and then you attack. It didn't actually deflect the blade because the other guy could just thrust, but you can see he's trying to apply what he learned.
There you go.
Yeah. Nice. Yep, that is also very much Fiori shenanigans. Yep, that right there. You stick close to the opponent's blade, and in this case, the sword is too far on the outside, so he's giving up the center line, which leaves him open to that. A quick backhand cut. Look how effortless it is, too. It's just like stepping forward, like it's very energy efficient. And you can see the fact that Seth has a martial arts background and is physically fit and all that, that helps a lot. Like that definitely puts you ahead of someone who doesn't have that foundation, because even though techniques are extremely important. Obviously, I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get your ass handed to you. Probably a sliced ham. But the importance of speed cannot be overstated, at least in the beginner to intermediate skill level range. Above a certain point, that doesn't really help you anymore, because like a very experienced instructor will know exactly how to position in such a way that it doesn't help. Like, what I mean is, if you're fast, you can just pop a quick thrust, right? If you don't know how to do it, if you lack the skill, it's going to be an uncovered thrust that leaves you exposed meanwhile. But if you're quick enough and the opponent didn't assume a guard position that prevents that, then yeah, you might get them. But a more experienced person will already frame in such a way that even if this quick thrust comes in, it's not going to land because they have already cut it off. They've already covered the center line, and a thrust that comes in will be easily just directed off to the side with minimal movement. So yeah, anyway, that's getting too technical. Yeah.
0 for 4, not important.
Oh yeah, and sniping. That's smart. By the way, one thing to point out here that you might not be aware of, whenever you see instructors practicing with students, they scale it way down. They tend to adjust to the general skill level that the student is at. So they let them get hits in to encourage them and to learn, because if the instructor went all out, you wouldn't learn a thing. You would just get completely destroyed, and it would be a very frustrating experience. Right? And they're much more likely to do that than the students. The more experienced students might do the same. I mean, when I was an assistant instructor, that's what I did too. I also, just scale it down, and moved more slowly, and used more basic techniques rather than the most advanced stuff that can beat everything they do, because again, that's just frustrating. As you get better, you may start to find out how much the instructor has been holding back, because as you get better, the instructor increases as well. And eventually you figure out that even when sparring, oh crap, I thought the instructor was actually going reasonably hard, but no. I can tell you from personal experience that even though I'm aware of this, I've still underestimated just how much an instructor held back. Where at some point I was like, oh, he's going like 25% right now in sparring, while I'm going like 80. So yeah, there's a lot below the surface, so to speak.
I lost.
This is so much fun, guys. Cool. Sorry I didn't get to go with everybody. I'm like smacked right now. I get it. We get it. Thank you, sir.
It's always great to see when people have a good experience with it.
And that pretty much concludes my life as a master swordsman. I was gonna put another sword-based pun here, but I couldn't come up with any other ones that, had dual meaning.
Was your mind not sharp enough? Have your puns lost their edge? Do you need to hone your skill? Anyway, that was fun to watch. As I said, it's always nice to see people try something different and come together with different backgrounds and see what they think about a different kind of approach and all of that. At the end of the day, it's all fun exercise. Whether or not you're likely to use it on the street, that's one thing. Is it good exercise? Is it fun? Is it good community? Do you enjoy learning something new? All of that. Yeah, it's good stuff. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video as well. So check out theirs. They're linked down below. You should definitely watch those videos. Thanks for listening to my babbling, and take care, folks.